You walk into a room and suddenly, blank. You stand there, palms empty, wondering why you came in. You're talking to a friend and mid-sentence the name of someone you know well simply evaporates. You laugh it off. Oh, must be a senior moment. But what if I told you that joke is hiding something serious and fixable? This channel is for men and women over 40 who are sick of the forgetful jokes. If you're drinking extra coffee just to get through the morning, if you worry that those little lapses are the first steps toward real cognitive decline, listen up. You're not being dramatic. You're noticing a problem your body is trying to tell you about. For decades we accepted a myth. Memory loss is normal, aging. But here's the truth, and it changes everything. Most memory slips and that foggy, distracted feeling are not your brain failing. They're your brain starving for reliable energy. Think about it. Your brain is a high-performance engine. When it doesn't get clean, steady fuel, performance drops, errors happen, and you feel foggy. You may hear doctors say, everyone forgets things as they get older. That's not helpful, and it isn't the full picture. These lapses are symptoms, like a warning light on the dash. A warning light doesn't mean the car is irreparably broken. It means you need to check the battery. What I call it, and what I want you to remember, is the brain energy crisis. It's simple language for a complicated, biological problem. Your brain's energy factories, called mitochondria, are shrinking and failing to keep up. When the batteries dim, the lights go down. That dimming is what you call brain fog. Picture this. The brain is only about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes roughly 20% of your energy. That's enormous. Every thought, every word, every memory needs energy. When those energy reserves wobble, memory and focus wobble with them. Now, you might be thinking, if my brain needs that much power, why does it run out? There are 3 modern accelerators: chronic stress, poor sleep, and diets that spike and crash your blood sugar. Over years, these forces wear down the tiny batteries inside your brain cells. Here's the part most people miss. Caffeine and quick fixes make the problem worse over time. That extra cup of coffee hides the symptom for a while, but it doesn't rebuild the battery. In fact, when you rely on stimulants, you often push your system harder, and the warning lights blink more often. So, stop saying, "I'm just getting old." Stop pretending the brain is hopeless. The truth, the hopeful truth, is that those lapses are a signal. They tell you 2 things. 1, that your brain is in an energy crisis, and 2, that we can do something about it. Over the next few minutes I'll explain what those batteries are, why they fail, and, most important, clinically supported ways to regenerate them so you stop hiding behind coffee and start remembering names again. But first, one quick test you can do right now. Try to remember the name of someone you knew well in high school. Hold it for 10 seconds. If it slips, you're in the right place. If that name vanished, don't panic. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you reframes the whole problem. It isn't about losing who you are. It's about restoring the power that lets you be present, sharp, and confident again. Ready? Let's dig in. All right, let's get into the engine room. Why does the brain need so much energy? A simple fact. The brain makes up only about 2% of your body weight, yet it burns roughly 20% of your energy. Every single thought, every word you say, and every memory you form depends on a continuous supply of cellular fuel. That fuel doesn't come from magic, it's produced inside tiny organelles called mitochondria. Think of mitochondria as microscopic batteries inside every neuron. Some neurons, especially those that form deep memory circuits, carry hundreds or even thousands of these batteries. Mitochondria take your food, glucose and fatty acids, and convert it into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the cell's usable energy currency. ATP is tiny, but it's what powers the electrical signals your brain cells use to talk to each other. No ATP, right pointing arrow, weak signals, right pointing arrow, missed words, names, and attention slips. Now here's the crucial piece. Mitochondria are fragile. They have their own DNA, mitochondrial DNA, and they're exposed to a lot of oxidative stress because they're literally burning fuel. Over years, damage accumulates. Clinical observations show that by midlife, around age 50, a large portion of brain mitochondria can be lost or functionally impaired due to diet, chronic stress, poor sleep, and environmental toxins. When those batteries shrink or mutate, the brain's power grid begins to fail. What does a failing battery look like at the cellular level? First, less ATP. Second, excess reactive oxygen species, ROS, which are like tiny sparks that damage proteins and DNA. Third, poor calcium handling, which dysregulates the electrical firing of neurons. Those three things together, low fuel, oxidative damage, and electrical instability, undermine the synapses that store and retrieve memories. Imagine your brain as a city at night. When the power is robust, every neighborhood, every memory network has bright, reliable lights. When mitochondria fail, neighborhoods go dark. You can still walk the streets, but the landmarks are dimmer and harder to find. That's why you can sometimes sense the word on the tip of your tongue but not pull it out, the light illuminating that memory is too weak. There are multiple modern accelerants that speed this decline. Chronic inflammation from poor diet, repeated blood sugar swings that stress mitochondria, sleep loss that blocks nightly repair, and constant stress hormones that literally reprogram mitochondrial function. These aren't moral failures, they're biological processes responding to our environment. An important detail: mitochondria aren't static. They fuse, divide, and are cleared out in a process called mitophagy, quality control for batteries. With age and chronic stress, mitophagy becomes less efficient. Damaged batteries hang around and leak more ROS, dragging down neighboring mitochondria, a contagion of failure. But here's the optimistic flip. Mitochondria are also responsive to signals. Cells can trigger mitochondrial biogenesis, the growth of new mitochondria, and they can ramp up mitophagy to remove the worst offenders. In plain language, we can rebuild the batteries and clean up the grid. That's not science fiction, it's cellular biology that we can influence with interventions. One more key link to memory. Synapses, the tiny gaps where neurons communicate, are hugely energy demanding. Forming a memory, retrieving a memory, focusing on a conversation, all of that requires ATP at the synapse. When energy is limited, the brain prioritizes survival tasks, and higher order functions like complex memory and word retrieval get deprioritized. That's why people with a brain energy crisis often feel fine doing routine tasks, but struggle with multitasking, names, or complex recall. So, the bottom line: your forgetfulness is not a moral failing and it's not inevitable. It's often a sign that the brain's batteries are aging, stressed, or simply not being replaced. Next, we're going to connect this battery story to blood sugar, insulin resistance in the brain, what some researchers call type 3 diabetes, and why that makes stimulants like caffeine a dangerous short-term fix. Stay with me. Now we connect the dots. You understand the batteries. But what if the problem isn't just damaged batteries? What if fuel can't even get into the cell? This is where the conversation gets uncomfortable and empowering. Your brain primarily runs on glucose. To use glucose, brain cells rely on insulin signaling, not in the same way muscles do, but insulin still plays a critical regulatory role in allowing neurons to metabolize fuel efficiently. When you experience years of blood sugar spikes, from processed carbohydrates, stress hormones, constant snacking, your body can become insulin resistant. And yes, so can your brain. Some researchers have referred to this phenomenon as type 3 diabetes. It's not an official diagnosis, but it's a powerful concept. It describes insulin resistance localized in the brain. In this state, glucose is present in the bloodstream, but neurons struggle to use it efficiently. It's like having gasoline in the tank but a clogged fuel line. When neurons can't access fuel properly, mitochondria produce less ATP. Less ATP means weaker synaptic signaling. Weaker signaling means difficulty retrieving names, slower processing speed, and that frustrating sensation that your mind is wrapped in cotton. This is not aging. This is metabolic dysfunction. And here's the trap most people fall into. When your brain feels underpowered, you reach for stimulation. Coffee. Energy drinks. Another espresso at 3 p.m. It feels like it works, temporarily. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors, essentially removing the sensation of fatigue. It also stimulates adrenaline and cortisol, your stress hormones. That creates alertness, but it doesn't create energy. It doesn't repair mitochondria. It doesn't restore insulin sensitivity. It just turns up the volume on a struggling system. Think of it like revving the engine when the oil is low. You can do it for a while. The engine roars. But internally, friction increases. Wear accelerates. The next morning, you wake up more depleted, so you reach for more caffeine. And the cycle tightens. Chronically elevated cortisol also impairs sleep architecture, especially deep sleep, when your brain performs glymphatic clearance and mitochondrial repair. So the very stimulant you use to compensate today undermines the repair process you need tonight. And remember what we discussed earlier, mitophagy, the cleanup of damaged batteries? That process is optimized during deep, restorative sleep and metabolic stability. If sleep is shallow and blood sugar is unstable, the brain accumulates defective mitochondria faster than it replaces them. So now you see the pattern. Unstable blood sugar, right-pointing arrow, insulin resistance in the brain, right-pointing arrow, poor fuel delivery, right-pointing arrow, weaker mitochondria, right-pointing arrow, reliance on stimulants, right-pointing arrow, worse sleep, right-pointing arrow, even weaker mitochondria. That spiral is what I call the modern brain energy trap. In the next section, I'm going to show you the reversal pathway, how we stimulate mitochondrial regeneration and rebuild the brain's energy grid from the inside out. Stay with me, alright? Take a breath. Because everything we've talked about so far leads to one powerful truth. Your brain is not static. It is adaptive. It is regenerative. And even after 40, 50, 60, you can stimulate it to rebuild its energy system. Two biological processes matter here: neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, and mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of brand new mitochondria inside your cells. You are not stuck with the batteries you have today. Your cells can manufacture new ones. Mitochondrial biogenesis is regulated by cellular signaling pathways, including PGC1 alpha, NRF1, and mitochondrial transcription factors. When activated, these pathways signal the cell nucleus to produce proteins that build fresh, fully functional mitochondria. More batteries. More ATP. Stronger synaptic signaling. The real question becomes, how do we flip that switch? How do we tell aging brain cells it's time to rebuild? One of the most fascinating compounds studied for this purpose is PQQ, pyrroloquinolone quinone. PQQ is a redox cofactor found in trace amounts in certain foods, and research has shown it can stimulate pathways involved in mitochondrial biogenesis. In both animal and human studies, PQQ has demonstrated the ability to increase the number and efficiency of mitochondria. What makes PQQ unique is that it doesn't simply protect existing mitochondria, it signals the creation of new ones. That's fundamentally different from a stimulant. Stimulants push output from damaged batteries. PQQ supports manufacturing fresh batteries altogether. PQQ also supports antioxidant balance, helping neutralize excess reactive oxygen species, those damaging sparks we discussed earlier. That reduces mitochondrial DNA stress and improves long-term cellular resilience. In simple terms, cleaner power plants, less internal corrosion. But rebuilding the battery is only part of the equation. You also need efficient wiring, strong communication between neurons. That's where supporting compounds come in. Bacopa monnieri, an herb studied for cognitive support, has been shown in clinical trials to enhance memory consolidation and support synaptic communication over time. It appears to modulate neurotransmitter systems and may reduce oxidative stress in neural tissue. Then there's alpha-GPC, a choline donor that supports acetylcholine production, one of the primary neurotransmitters involved in memory and focus. Adequate acetylcholine means stronger signal transmission across synapses. In other words, clearer conversations between neurons. So now we're addressing 3 layers of the brain energy crisis, creating new mitochondria, protecting them from oxidative damage, and strengthening neural communication. That's not hype. That's systems biology. Imagine waking up without reaching for coffee immediately. Imagine recalling names without panic. Imagine reading a book and actually retaining what you read. That begins when the brain's energy grid is restored, not forced, not stimulated, but rebuilt. And in the next section, I'm going to show you why getting therapeutic levels of these compounds from food alone is nearly impossible, and what that means for a structured protocol. Now here's the practical reality. You might be thinking, great, I'll just eat foods with PQQ and solve this. I love that mindset. But here's the problem. The amounts of PQQ found naturally in food are extremely small. PQQ exists in trace quantities in foods like parsley, green tea, natto, and certain vegetables, but typically in microgram levels. Most clinical research exploring mitochondrial support uses supplemental doses far beyond what you could realistically consume through diet alone. You would have to eat impractical amounts daily. The same applies to Bacopa and alpha-GPC. Therapeutic consistency matters. The right dose. The right purity. The right synergy. Otherwise, you're just experimenting on yourself and hoping for the best. That's exactly why I formulated what I call the Neuro-Thrive protocol. Not as a stimulant. Not as a quick fix. But as a structured mitochondrial regeneration approach designed to support biogenesis, protect neural tissue, and enhance communication pathways simultaneously. Neuro-Thrive combines clinically studied levels of PQQ with synergistic compounds like Bacopa monnieri and alpha-GPC, formulated specifically to target the brain energy crisis we discussed today. No caffeine spikes. No adrenal strain. No artificial stimulation. The goal is cellular restoration, not nervous system overdrive. This is about waking up with focus, not borrowing it from tomorrow. In a moment, I'll give you 2 daily habits that amplify mitochondrial repair naturally. But if you're serious about rebuilding your brain's batteries at the cellular level, I've placed the Neuro-Thrive protocol link in the description below. Let's finish strong. Let's bring this home. You now understand something most people never hear. Your memory lapses are not simply getting older. They are often a signal of a brain energy crisis. And the solution isn't panic, it's power restoration. Now I want to give you 2 daily habits, simple, free, and biologically powerful, that amplify mitochondrial repair and brain synchronization. These stack beautifully with everything we've discussed. First, cross-lateral movement. Walking, especially outdoor walking, is profoundly therapeutic for the brain. When your right arm swings with your left leg and vice versa, you activate both hemispheres in coordinated rhythm. This enhances interhemispheric communication through the corpus callosum and improves neural efficiency. It also increases blood flow and stimulates mitochondrial signaling pathways. 20 to 30 minutes a day. No headphones. Let your brain idle. That rhythmic bilateral stimulation is one of the most underrated cognitive therapies available, and it's free. Second, a simple 12-hour overnight fast. If you finish dinner at 7 p.m., don't eat again until 7 a.m. This gives your body a metabolic reset window. During this period, insulin levels fall, and your cells initiate repair pathways, including autophagy and mitochondrial cleanup. Think of it as nightly maintenance for your brain's batteries. You don't need extreme fasting. You need consistency, stability, predictable metabolic rhythm. That alone can significantly improve insulin sensitivity and brain energy regulation over time. Imagine 6 months from now, sharper recall, stronger focus, less dependence on caffeine, and confidence when speaking because the words arrive when you need them. That's not fantasy. That's physiology when you support it correctly. If you're ready to actively rebuild your brain's energy grid, check the link in the description for the Neuro-Thrive protocol. Combine it with these daily habits, and you're addressing the root cause, not masking the symptom. Your brain is not broken. It's underpowered. And when you restore power, clarity follows. I'll see you in the next video. Disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. The information presented is not a substitute for professional medical diagnosis, treatment, or care. Always consult with a physician or qualified healthcare provider before starting any supplement, fasting protocol, or lifestyle change, especially if you have a medical condition, are taking medication, or have been diagnosed with diabetes, cognitive impairment, or neurological disease. Individual results may vary.